When you surround yourself with barbarians, people just as ruthless as you are bound to attract the wrong company. Yet when you're the biggest and baddest among them, like King Ingvar, there isn't much to worry about. Even if some stray from the path, what harm could they befall upon him? King Ingvar wields the katana Cold Knight, a blade that can cut through anything, and possesses incredible reflexes for such a large Fenin. Though he denounced Enror, the wolf god, as well as the other gods and goddesses, King Ingvar himself was viewed as a god. Enror was the god of war and battle, and since the gods were missing, they assumed Enror had returned in Fenin form, with King Ingvar as his vessel. Being labeled the God King by a group of barbarians came with a new level of respect that King Ingvar was unfamiliar with, and on top of that, these reckless brutes he surrounded himself with not only looked up to him, they feared him. Being acknowledged by the king was a great triumph, and being on his bad side was the biggest disgrace. One Fenin finding himself on the bad side of the king was Grex. Grex showed great promise and wanted to surpass Ingvar one day and become the next God King. However, a failed mission at the orphanage in Reddick made the king furious with him. Had it not been for Dita, King Ingvar's most trusted advisor, Grex would have been dead a long time ago. Instead, Dita convinced King Ingvar to keep Grex around and let him gain his good graces again. Grex was unpredictable and problematic, but even Ingvar could not deny the determination and fighting ability of Grex. He wasn't strong when Ingvar initially recruited him, but he had grown to become an above-average warrior. Obviously, he was nowhere near the level of King Ingvar, but compared to some of the other recruits joining them to start the Obsidian Onyx War, Grex did stand out. Dita's suggestion made Ingvar keep Grex in the army, but the king wanted nothing to do with him. Grex traveled in his own caravan with a small group of knights. He was stationed almost completely on the opposite side of wherever the king was staying. He wasn't allowed to interact with Dita, and he was often placed in the most dangerous territories. To start the war, King Ingvar had Grex's unit stationed just on the border of Obsidian, closest to Onyx. If Onyx decided to act first, there was a good chance Grex would be in the earliest of battles. This decision didn't bother Grex. He wanted nothing more than to get back in the king's good graces. Any challenge King Ingvar would throw at Grex he would accept. That being said, it was important to note that Grex was not quite all there mentally, and this desperation to prove himself to the king began to consume him more and more as days drew closer to wartime. Grex obeying orders and Dita's suggestion were enough for King Ingvar to turn a blind eye, but Grex felt like he needed to do more to gain back Ingvar's favor. Defending an outpost was not enough. He needed to make a splash with lasting effects, big enough to ripple their way to the God King's ears. The decisions Grex would make during the war would make his last mistake at the orphanage look like a small misstep, and the devastation would be felt for long after the war was over.